Sailor Moon, arguably the most iconic magical girl anime of all time, but also has perhaps some of the most divisive adaptations of its story. Yes, we all know about the classic 90s era anime, and the more recent 2000s readaptation, Sailor Moon Crystal. I know I'm about 20 years too late to be very topical with this discussion, but I also feel like we sort of take the two adaptations for granted, so much so that I recently started to realize I don't really know how much these two adaptations actually differ from each other. Obviously, there's the big, easy things to point out, like how Crystal's story is much faster. The animation quality is obviously different between the several decades worth of productions. Crystal also has really weird dips in animation quality too that was pretty notorious for when it was first airing. And perhaps the most talked about thing, the transformations are much longer, use 3D models, and aren't amazing, I'll say. But yeah, we already know all that stuff. I was thinking about the smaller details though, the pacing for the story and the character beats. I feel like everybody gets wrapped up in those easier to notice things, and we don't really focus on the more minute differences. I want to compare Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal, all the way up until Sailor Mars joins the team. Let's not waste any more time and dive on in. Episode 1 starts with Usagi waking up and being late for school. It takes no time at all for us to get to our first big differences between the adaptations. In the original version, Usagi notices some kids picking on Luna and she runs up to help her and takes the bandages off. Hooray, our hero! In Crystal... Yeah, not exactly a hero here, huh? Of all the changes in the two different versions, this is the one that confuses me the most with this episode. It's such a little act, but having OG Usagi stop to go out of her way to help a defenseless animal is a nice way to establish that Usagi does have some admirable qualities. Throughout the episode, we really hammer home how much of a loser crybaby she is, but this one act of kindness is how we're truly introduced to her as. So in the back of our minds, we know she is a good, caring person. So for Crystal Usagi to just wholesale step on a helpless creature instead? I know it was an accident, but still, the only thing this establishes Usagi as is careless and clumsy, and we already knew that watching her be late for school and fall down her stairs. On that note, in Crystal, Usagi gets hurt a lot more, she falls a lot more, she gets scratched up by Luna a lot. There was a few slapstick gags in the original too, but it's much more prominent in Crystal. Well, I've technically lied. In Crystal, the first truly big difference is that it starts with a dream of Sailor Moon seeing the princess with her prince, which is neat, and this kind of imagery will tie the girls together throughout the rest of the episodes. It's a magical, romantic detail to introduce to the audience right away. Admittedly, in the original, nothing all that magical starts happening for quite a while in the episode, so it's nice seeing something like that right from the get-go. Anyways, our bunhead heroine makes it to school, is late and hungry, and worst of all, totally bombed her test. Why did they change the teacher's hair color? It's villain time!
Have we been able to make any progress?
No! Why did they answer her like that? Like kids getting scolded. Did you finish your homework? No! Back to our girl. Usagi and Haru are chatting with Otaku Hero here about Sailor V when Haru drops the info about her mom's jewelry store having a big sale. In the original anime, Haru and Usagi get all excited at the prospect of having a bunch of pretty jewelry. In Crystal, they give these lines of dialogue to these two random nobodies.
Jewelry is just so beautiful. I can totally understand why someone would want to steal some of it. But I get how someone would want all those pretty jewels. Yeah, I agree. I would love to have a diamond ring. No, right? Jewelry's the best. So sparkly.
I hate this decision. Similar to the Luna thing, why take this away from Usagi? My best guess is they didn't want her to seem too vapid, but like, that's the point. Usagi is vapid. She is an incredibly flawed character who is a crybaby, she gets bad grades, she's rude and shallow, and that's the whole point. No one, not even she, thinks she'd be a hero, let alone a princess. By stripping away Usagi's flaws, it makes her feel too perfect too quickly. Also, it makes her just less interesting as a character. It doesn't even make sense in the long run because at the end of the episode when Luna gives her the charm, she still fawns over it and gets distracted, like how we saw with the original. It makes less sense when she wasn't already the one drooling over the idea of having nice jewelry.
Stupid jerk in his purple pleated pants. Who the heck wears a tuxedo in the middle of the afternoon anyway?
Why is Mamoru in a tuxedo? Gee, I wonder who could Tuxedo Mask be? Is it the guy wearing a whole tuxedo already? Subtlety? What's that? Usagi is also just way less of a crybaby in Crystal. It might be a side effect of the animation style being vastly less expressive than the original, but she's pretty composed actually. It makes her crying attack come out of nowhere at the end of the episode. Luna's here. She talks. Usagi transforms. Boom, it's time to fight a monster.
I cannot allow you to live.
The original monster is way scarier looking. Look at what she does with her neck. Ugh. The new version never even gets close to being this creepy. I know I've been pretty harsh with Crystal so far, but I do have some praise for it here. They handle her crying attack better in my opinion.
Stop crying, Sailor Moon. Now's your chance.
In the original, they swapped Tuxedo Mask's lines and Sailor Moon's sequence of events, so he's like,
Sailor Moon, you have to remember that crying isn't going to solve any of your problems.
and then crying 100% absolutely helped. He's up there like, oh dang, never mind. I whiffed it on that call, sorry. Although I will say, he doesn't throw a rose in Crystal, so boo. Crystal also clearly is leaning much more into the romance of the story, more elongated scenes with Sailor Moon dreaming about Prince Endymion, and she's already smitten with Mamoru. All of that was missing from the original, but admittedly it also had a lot more episodes to slowly build up to this romance over time. Well, that's episode 1, the introduction to this legendary magical girl show. Next up, we need to get our second Sailor Scout, Mercury, on the team. In Crystal, that's the second episode. In the original Sailor Moon, it's the 8th. There are 7 episodes before Ami is even hinted to us. And I know the show's productions were done very differently, had different budgets and episode counts and everything, but man, those 7 episodes really do help in the long run. I don't think Crystal needed to have all 7 episodes plotlines to flesh out the characters more, but heck, I think at least 2 or 3 would have been good. They just help to better establish Usagi's status quo. We see her friends and her parents and brother a lot more. We see her crush on Tuxedo Mask and the guy who runs the game shop. We see how much she hates Mamoru. In Crystal, I don't think we ever even see her dad, and all of her friendships feel like background elements. It also doesn't make sense why Usagi had a whole flower frame introduction for her teacher when she's basically non-existent in Crystal. It would have made much more sense in the original since her teacher does a lot more there. One specific detail is that her pen gets introduced a lot sooner in the original, the one that makes her change her appearance to use a disguise. We watch over these 7 episodes as Usagi gets more and more confident with her magical abilities, and we just don't see that growth with Crystal just because of the lack of time with the characters. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, but I think filler episodes are actually really important. Well, let me know what you think.
That when they measured her IQ, it was discovered to be over 9,000! It's over
9,000!
Crystal Ami's shirt is like gray? I don't know. I think the size of the shirt looks cute on her, but why does it have to be gray? In the original show, Luna uses the Sailor V arcade game as a secret computer. In Crystal, she has like a whole room with like Tony Stark holograms and things. This kinda confused me because later in the episode, they changed things up a bit. So excuse me for going around in a completely weird order with this one. In the original, Luna just throws Ami her transformation pen during the climax of the episode, episode. In Crystal, they changed it so that when Ami does really well at the arcade, it spits out her pen as a prize. It also spits out Usagi's transformation pen too. It's implied Luna put those things in there, but I feel like it would have been more cohesively tied together if the arcade was still her computer too. Also, little thing, but in the OG version, the arcade screen was showing Ami's high score. Crystal doesn't have that. People still ooh and ah and say she's doing really well, but the visual of her score rapidly multiplying just did a much better job at showing how well she's actually doing. Why is it so friggin' dark in the computer room in Crystal? What, did Jedi forget to pay the electric bill this month?
As one of our highest achievers, we expect you to be a role model for the other students.
In the original version, Ami had a scholarship on the line. I think that gives the stakes a bit more weight compared to just her reputation or whatever. Not gonna lie, a lot about this episode is done completely differently. At a glance, you might think it's all the same, like they hit the same beats and they have similar concepts, but the actual meat to the episode is almost non-comparable because of how different they are.
She might actually be a monster sent by the enemy. Be careful.
In the original, Luna was suspicious of Ami being another monster. In Crystal, Luna already knows she's a new Sailor Guardian right from the get-go. On one hand, it makes more sense. They've fought 7 extra monsters by this point, so Luna should be able to tell Ami doesn't behave the same way they did. But on the other hand, it completely changes the plot of the episode, and kinda takes the plot out of Usagi's hands. Luna doesn't reveal to Usagi Ami is a Sailor Guardian or anything, presumably to maybe test Usagi to figure it out on her own. I don't know. Luna and Usagi barely get to talk to each other in Crystal. It also doesn't make sense in the next episode because she doesn't know that Mars is a Sailor Guardian beforehand. Also, now that they're not suspicious of Ami, the circumstances around the climax needs to change completely. In the original, Ami was immune to the disc's energy stealing powers because she wasn't actually using it.
I did. Studying should be done on your own. Using the disc was like cheating.
In Crystal, the disc does affect her, and Sailor Moon bursts in to save her. It makes Usagi's actions feel more heroic, but also kind of takes away from Ami's own impressive feats.
Make me look like a doctor from the university hospital! Change me into a doctor! It really worked! Come on now, let's go.
What? What? That is not a disguise. The transformation's supposed to completely change Sailor Moon's entire appearance, make her an adult, and like, you know, unrecognizable. This is just her basically playing dress up. It also adds an unnecessary plot hole into the show. In the original, since she doesn't look like herself, she can just transform into Sailor Moon even if she's in front of someone. But that doesn't work here because she still just looks like Usagi.
Transform into Sailor Moon. Here? Right in front of Ami?
Crystal also got rid of the extras in this scene. In the original, it made sense she'd claim she's a doctor, but when there's only Ami here, it doesn't work. Also, it kind of undermines a key theme with at least these initial episodes of Sailor Moon. It's more obvious with the other episodes in between that Crystal is missing, but Sailor Moon clearly touches on the topic of fads. Each episode, there's some new thing that everyone wants to be a part of, and they get swept up into it, and it turns out a monster is sucking out their energy. The effects these various things have on the masses is a key element at play here. The way the zeitgeist can take over someone's life, even to an unhealthy degree, is very much a conflict even that the real world has. And I think it's neat that Sailor Moon tries to tackle these topics. But when the masses are omitted from the monster's plans like this, it undermines that entire theme. And it also makes Jedi's plans look dumber. Like, really? You're gonna find the silver crystal with just Ami's energy alone? Okay. Once again, the monster is way lamer this time around. Though its paper attack does look cooler. I don't know, it's more impressive when the monster's like actually scary, right? So yeah, the introduction to Sailor Mercury is very different. But the biggest thing Crystal has changed from the original? They got rid of Sailor Moon's sassy short friend.
Just between us, I don't really like her. She thinks she's all that because she's so smart. So she comes from money and she's a genius? She lives in a different world.
There's another extra episode episode of the original anime before Sailor Mars gets introduced, and unsurprisingly, I like this a lot. It's nice seeing Usagi and Ami get some more one-on-one time before we fill out even more of the cast. Also, it gives Ami some breathing room to highlight her personality, skills, and new magical abilities too. Okay, let's dive into the last episode for this video. Both versions start with Queen Beryl chastising Jadeite for sucking at his job. I actually prefer how Crystal also uses this opportunity to introduce a few of the other generals too, start hinting towards the idea that this is a lot bigger than just Jadeite. Also, while I'm praising Crystal, I'll add this too. This episode in particular has some notoriously janky looking faces and proportions, but let's not act like the original didn't also have its own set of animation disappointments, specifically with Queen Beryl and Jadeite. All of their animations have just been reused in every single episode. They made exactly 2 animation loops for Beryl, and that's it. Similar to Ami's introduction, basically everything around the events of the plot is done completely differently. In the original show, the girls hear the rumor about the demon bus and choose to visit the shrine to get protective charms.
And the amulets from there are known for warding off evil, so what do you say we go down there?
In the new one, Ami's just like, yo, check out this absolute babe who rides the bus with me.
You might get to catch a glimpse of a really pretty girl. I see her a lot when I take this bus.
I can't deny, I am a fan of helpless bisexual Usagi chasing after pretty girls on a whim. Also, the protective charms don't even come back to being a thing in the original. Instead, Jadeite is using cursed love charms to get people in a trance to get them to board the demon bus. One very noticeable change is the complete absence of Rei's grandfather. I don't know, maybe they just didn't want to have the images of an older man flirting with a teenager. Oh wait, what's this footage of high schooler Mamoru flirting with middle school Usagi doing here? Anyways, in the original show, Rei's grandfather hires Jadeite and he starts using the shrine charms to get people to board the demon bus, which is why people start accusing the shrine of having a part in the disappearances. But that doesn't happen in Crystal, so instead, all these moms are mad at Rei because, like, it's so dumb. Why don't you use your psychic powers to find our children?
I'm so sorry, but my powers don't work like that. It's best left to the police.
Her child is missing. You're supposed to be psychic.
Are you stupid? Yeah, the police might be a bit more reliable than random psychic powers. My biggest gripe with the entirety of what I've covered so far is the fact they've completely butchered Rei's personality. They've turned our fiery hothead into this pathetic twee mess.
My grandfather has nothing to do with this. Now get out of here!
Nerve, how rude!
You're the rude one.
My spiritual powers have made me an outcast. Why was I born this way?
Like anyone can tell you, Sailor Mars is angry, spirited, throws herself into danger, speaks her mind. What the hell is this? Rei is meant to be the Vegeta to Usagi's Goku, often rivaling each other, and that gets completely abandoned here. She goes from proudly talking about her psychic powers to being ashamed of them. I guess they wanted some sort of arc for her to go through here, learning to embrace her abilities, but it also just strips away everything about her iconic personality. At this rate, that's not even Rei, in my mind. Also, now that Jadeite isn't working for Rei's family shrine, her inclusion in the plot is way less proactive. She kind of just stumbles into learning about him and goes chasing after Usagi for no real reason. In the original, Usagi and Ami see the bus depart into the other world before, so they have time to plan and prepare. Here in Crystal, Usagi happens to notice Rei's been nabbed by Jadeite and just jumps in to the rescue. Very similar with what happened to Ami too. What is it with Crystal having our new Sailor Scouts fall victim to Jadeite's plans?
Transform me into a gorgeous flight attendant! It's my sworn duty to see that passengers have a safe and pleasant trip. It's my duty to ensure the safety and comfort of all passengers no matter what!
Yeah, why did she do that? In general, Crystal cuts out basically all of the comedy from the original. Usagi transformed into a flight attendant to give her confidence to board the bus, because she was afraid to do so beforehand. In the new one, she just transforms for no reason. Like, she was already willing to chase down the bus to save Rey, and it's just a very silly thing to insist on keeping in the show, and kind of a perfect example of how they're approaching their changes to this story. They're willing to cut out Rey's grandfather, change her personality, and all kinds of other stuff, but they aren't willing to change something as small as what Usagi transforms into here. Make her a roller skater or something to help her chase down the bus easier. You've changed so many things already. Why not just do something here that makes more sense? So hung up on weirdly specific old plot threads from the original that everything they're trying to switch up and do differently gets dragged down by these weird extra details that don't complement their new vision.
Oh, the communicator!
This is kind of a design tangent, but I think their new charms look horribly gaudy. Like, these be right at home at a Claire's rack of plastic beads, yuck. Ami gets to join the battle this time, which is nice. She couldn't make it in the original version. Ami's barely gotten to show off her skills yet, so I'm glad they chose to include her here. But then, they also chose to have her do absolutely nothing useful. Bubble spray is meant to create a whole thick layer of fog to help the girls evade the monsters, but here it just vanishes immediately. Rey's not the only one being done dirty here. Anyways, you know the drill. Rey is a guardian, she transforms, we stop the bad guy. Tuxedo Mask didn't participate in Crystal, but that's fine. He did a lot more in the last episode after all.
I'm so glad that we found you, Sailor Mars.
Wake up, honey. Sometimes those feelings are only one-sided.
So, what have we learned today? Sailor Moon Crystal is a nice idea wrapped up in confusing decisions. I understand the appeal of wanting to trim the fat when it comes to new readaptations, but I think we can all agree that when you expedite things too much, you start to cut out some of the meat, too. Crystal was fighting an uphill battle, needing to take what amounted to 10 whole episodes from the original and trim them down to only 3, and certain decisions I do think make sense. It's fine if Usagi already has a crush on Mamoru. It's fine if we lean into their romance more. It's clever introducing the other generals earlier on, but it really feels like they were missing out on the fun part of Sailor Moon, their personalities. The Sailor Scouts are a ragtag group of a lot of different styles bouncing off of each other. Everything in Crystal feels much more watered down. Even little things like Sailor Moon isn't as much of a coward. Ami doesn't talk about cram school. Rey, well, you saw what they did to Rey. The downside is they insist on dragging certain details into the story, and they sort of just feel like obligations, whether it be various plot beats, characters, or transformations. At a glance, the shows might seem very similar, but they really aren't at all. And I can understand what their thought process might have been. When watching the original show, the formula for the episodes gets pretty predictable pretty quickly. Bad guys are manipulating something that affects the masses, Usagi and friends get wrapped up in the fad somehow, realize people are acting weird because it's a monster, and when there's about 4-ish minutes left, they transform and blast the baddies in one hit. I could understand wanting to change up that formula with Crystal, but the way they decide to go about it tends to take away from their depths of the world around them. Seeing Usagi witness the harm of the villains' plan around her or with her friends and family acts as a motivation. With Crystal, she's kind of just out of the loop until she starts to dive into action during the climax. However, they also seem to go out of their way to give Usagi a bit more agency. Initially, she'd sort of just happened to be there. In Crystal, she goes out of her way to try and save Ami and then Rey. While it's a nice idea in theory to make our protagonist more heroic, it also makes her a lot more boring. It doesn't help that a lot of the personality with the animation and the characters' antics have been scrubbed away.
Thanks, Mom.
Oh, thanks for lunch. Bye! Do you want to come with me and check it out? Of course I do! Yeah! Me too, me too! Oh, how dare you talk to me like that! Don't call me names, I'm still older than you! Then maybe she could help teach me how to ace my test! Then I can be a genius too! Bye! Why does my heart pound when whenever I see him.
Lacking personality is really the best way I'd put it. It's all technically there in one way or another, except for the real heart of the characters. But what do you think? Sailor Moon is a beloved classic, so trying to adapt it was going to be hard. Do you like the changes they tried to go with? Are you happy with the cut filler? Any thoughts and opinions you have when it comes to these different adaptations? I'd love to see them in the comments below. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Andrew, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Genital War Thunder, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Not All That Evil, Holly, Messiah, Jacob, Ben's Sketchbook, Rain, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Twisty, Juan, Bunkin Duncan, Hoodie Angel, Ranger, Hut Mutt Butt, Sean, Primaroon, Steve, Overhypen, Plague, Unspoken, Tyrene, Thanos, Pandemonium, Peter, Agiri, Shahid, Eden, The Eliza, Minnie, Liv Lobotomy Sane, Doki Pokey, Fanboy, myself, and Moon of Blues. So yeah, what do you think? I only wanted to do the first 3 episodes because it's kind of like my series where you watch the first 3 episodes and then you judge the show based on that. These are the first 3 episodes from Crystal, so I wanted to compare that to the same things from the original because I thought that was interesting and fun. Would you be hooked in the first 3 episodes with Crystal or not? What do you think? Any and all thoughts and opinions about these 2 different Sailor Moon versions? I would love to see what you have to say in the comments below, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.